Hello, welcome back, and of course we gave you a sneak preview of one of the slides there, but I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by Karl Lentz. Welcome.
Thank you. Brian.
Thanks for coming, and what we just said is amazing that we hadn't planned to do this before Christmas, but we got a phone call from Bali saying that you were in the country, we should get you down and do an interview, and that's what's happened. Yeah. So if I just drive things a little bit in the beginning, just tell us a bit about yourself. Where are you from in the States?
Well, I'm originally from New York City, and once a family had enough money, they went and bought farmland out on Long Island, and we raised basically on a chicken farm. And then in the summertime, we'd go back in New York City, so I got lucky. I was able to understand city life with relatives in the city, and I understood the farm life out in the country. So I was lucky. I got to intermingle with both worlds. So, but like I said, just like any other man or woman, you start out very early in life learning law. You know what's proper and just and what's wrong at a very early age. So the reason why I've really had to delve into this to the level I have is because I had a son who was born in 2001, and he was born with Downs. So what the government tried to do, they tried to make all kinds of proposals to us of benefits and Medicaid and Social Security, and I wished of nothing of the government, because when you receive a benefit, obviously there's going to be some sort of a latch attached to it. They're going to want to inspect the home, inspect the child. It's like, look, we've got this covered. We have a farm in Virginia. We have our families lived for thousands of years without any government intervention. So can you just leave us alone? And for some reason, they just kept saying, you need to sign Medicaid, Social Security cards. You got to, be able to find funding for him for the rest of his life. I said, we've got that covered. We don't require any benefits from the government. So what was funny is they kept trying to say, well, if you don't sign with us, you're not going to have your child discharged to you from the hospital. I said, oh, really? I said, you realize that is my property in that other room that you're talking about? And the two women from Social Services, CPS, said, oh, you just called your child property. I said, well, that's my property. And don't worry if I call them child or not. That's my property. And like, oh, I can't believe you just said that. So then I looked down to the end of the table, and the mother was down there. I said, hey, yo, are you my property? And she said, absolutely. I said, why is that? She said, because you're mine. I said, that's right. I said, so what is property? Property is that which is proper to man, that which is exclusive to all others within the society, which includes all the products and services he creates by laboring his body. So I basically just said to the lady, because we're exclusive to each other within this society. We have a verbal agreement, and by our acts we could prove that she's exclusive to me, and I have the right to enjoy and use her, and I'm exclusive to her. I said, we don't need a marriage contract. We don't need a certificate from the state to prove that we are each other's property, that we believe that we are exclusive to all others within a society to use and enjoy as we wish, without any government intervention. So these poor women are like, but you used the word property. I said, that's right, because the legal society can't use the word property, because the number one functions from all time since time began with governments are created to protect and secure property. That's all they have. That's their mission statement, is to secure and protect property of man. That's what they exist for. That's why we created them. And man is the creator of the governments. There are public servants. We are the public. They serve us. So we are supposed to go to the government when we require something. They are never allowed to knock on our door and say, hey, I got a sale for you today. I got a benefit. Don't you want it? Look, when I want you, I will come seek you out. Do not bother me. Don't interfere with my life. When I've ran out of every other course of action, like go to my family, go to my parish, go to my community, go to my state, my county, then maybe I'll go to, like, say, the federal government for help. But until then, I don't require any help, and please just let me alone.
So what stage was this when you were using this expression to the social services, when you were saying...
A few days after he was born.
Right.
So we just basically asked the women, I said, have me and my wife done anything wrong to this newborn? No, we're not accusing you of doing anything wrong. I said, then we don't require anything of your benefit from the government. Thank you, but no thank you anyway. And they said, well, if you don't sign this piece of paper, you'll never see him again. I said, oh, is that a threat? And they said, we do this every day, Mr. Lentz. I said, well, you picked on the wrong guy, because I know that's my property, and the government only exists to protect the property of man. So you're going to have a run-in with me. I said, we're going to have fun. So for 6 years, they held the child. No charges ever against us, laid against us. And when we finally got a copy of the contract, 6 years later, It's what you folks have over here in Britain too. You folks usually have something called safety plans, and all these women who are having their children taken away, unless they've been criminally convicted of, like, say, chopping the kid's arm off or something like that, and they went to prison for something, they enter into voluntary agreement plans that say they'll make sure the house is clean, they'll make sure they get off of drugs, they'll make sure whatever. It's also a voluntary agreement that these folks make. Well, these people were so lazy that when my child was born, they didn't bother to fake a safety plan. They didn't bother to fake a contract. So what they did is they put an 80-year-old lady on here with a 40-something-year-old uncle taking care of a 3-year-old girl in an apartment somewhere. So this contract has nothing to do with me, my wife, or a newborn Downs baby in a hospital. That's how lazy they were. So obviously I'm moving my suit against them for damages for interfering with my child for all those years. I got the child's back living on my mom's farm in Virginia, where we originally wanted to bring them 12 years ago. But this is what I tell people all the time. Inside of their own code system, they understand the capacity of a man. Man has the capacity to wish. So you say, oh, Karl, that's such a cute word, wish. Well, you know what? Within their own code, it just says voluntary placements. It says the department has no authority under a voluntary agreement to hold a child against the parent's wishes. Very simple. All you have to do is go back to the county or whoever has it and say, I wish for the child to be returned. If you voluntarily sign an agreement, I don't care if you didn't live up to any of the terms and conditions with the contract. Anytime you wish for your property to be restored, restoration of property, not restored. Restored is the best.
Karl, can I say at this stage, because I've been learning as this knowledge has been unfolding, but of course you're highly experienced in the system and the simple words. But what we know people can't do is sort of, unless they actually know what they're doing with those words and phrases, they can't simply go in and play a game unless they've been trained in the game.
Right, and I thought it was extremely simple, the game, but I didn't realize, since my mom worked for the federal government since 1972 as an IRS tax auditor, I've been conditioned and trained in this game my whole life because my mom prepared cases against folks for failing to pay taxes, so she was always hitting us at home with stuff that they use in court all the time, so it became second nature to me. Watching Bali go into court, I didn't realize how difficult it was. So we were passing these notes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and finally the magistrate said, "Sir, who are you?" I said, "I'm Karl Lentz from the United States of America." He said, "Yes, would you like to sit next to your friend, and would you like to help him out?" I said, "Yes, I'm his next friend." And in the United States, it's somebody who helps somebody who's incompetent is their next friend. And here it's called a McKinsey friend.
Yes.
So I said, lovely, lovely. So every time the judge was saying something wrong, I'd tell Bali, I'd write a little note saying, that's not proper. Like when the magistrate asked Bali, do you want me to call your witness? And Bali was going to say yes. I said, no, I require of you to place my witness on the stand. Because a man wants from nothing from any other man. God provides all that a man could want. You don't want anything from that man in a black robe because he can deny you. He can say, no, it's not going to happen then. No, I require of you. Because require means by authority and by right. And only man has rights because the government says duties, obligations, and responsibilities according to the Constitution, Charter, or contracts. Men are not bound by paper. We do as we wish. So what I said to Bali, you require, it means and by right. States and governments have authority, but they have no rights. Okay? So the judge was realizing, this is what I was saying to you earlier, it's called a sibboleth. It's like S-I-B-B-O-L-E-T-H. They still do that like in Mecca when you want to go see the holy city and you want to go around, it's around a rock. They'll give you a question when you approach the gate. And if you don't get it right, well, ancient times you were executed, but I don't know if they still do it. But what it is there's certain key words that these people are listening for, and only that within that legal society, or that Muslim society, or that Hebrew society, they know when you're entering their temple, they're going to give you a question. And if you're saying it properly, the judge is trained to pick up that word and says, he knows the game. He knows the words. This is going to be fun. So in the United States, I basically gave 10 words out there. And there's some man going to the courts now. He's 35 years old. He's unemployed. Nice man named Dennis in Eaton, Pennsylvania. Sorry, I don't remember your last name. But he called up my show one day. He said, this has been a lot of fun sitting in court because those 10 words keep coming up. Like, unbelievably how many times those simple words come up. And if you understand, like, the difference between saying you're in person or if you're a man, a person is a man. But he has always a duty and responsibility to that society. When he's in person, but I just appear in court as a man, and I'm only obligated to harm that I've caused any harm or wrong to another man. I'm not obligated to your legal society. I'm sorry you believe what I did was wrong, but technically, I'm not part of your society, so how can I be held liable if I don't know the rules of your society? You got to, leave me alone, because I'm not liable.
For somebody who's not familiar with what you're talking about at the moment, and you correct me, but we are dealing with the fact that there is a separate system running inside the courts. It's a procedural system, but most importantly, it has its own language.
Absolutely.
And if you become involved in that language, you become involved in the procedure.
You're in grave peril. You're in grave peril. The only thing I always tell people, like every one of these seminars I've done in this nation, the very first thing I said to these folks, I said, you do know what Queen's Bench is? And they all look at me as like all these scholars and gurus that I've been talking to, because the people who've listened to me or come to my shows are really like hardcore into this. I said, you folks don't know how to access Queen's Bench. You don't understand the concept of Queen's Bench. I said, have you ever watched the Judge Judy show? It's like there's somebody who sits up there, or a jury. 2 men come in, 1 man leaves. It's very simple. There's no procedure. When you are the moving party or the claimant, you call the rules of the court. You invoke your customs and jurisdiction. You invoked how the court's going to move. If the other side doesn't like it, they can challenge you. And that's when you have preliminary hearings or precipice days, when you guys argue back and forth the merits of your case with the other party. But obviously, you always try to settle the matter on a private side before it gets into an open court. So this is what I did very simple with Bali, is I invoked the Queen's Bench. So all I did with Bali's case was I just said, I, Rashim Man, require of you to place your case before Queen's Bench. The next part of the notice was very simple. It's just, once we get before Queen's Bench, plaintiff must press the record. And as soon as they got that little notice, Bali and them, they were ready to fight. The magistrate was like, hold off, I got this. This was a different hearing. This wasn't the Friday one. This was like 2 Mondays ago. He said to the barrister, he said, you do know code enforcement officers and all that paperwork has no standing in Queen's Bench. You know, it's all hearsay. You know, you're not going to be able to present that in Queen's Bench. He says, you know that, right? He says, we'll figure out how to get it in. I said, and then the magistrate was like, this is a waste of time. You better go out in the hallway and figure it out with these people, because you have no standing in Queen's Bench. So that's what you're saying. There's a parallel system running in this country. You have my stuff will not work in France. It only works in the UK, and Bali did say that one time to the judge.
Because this is dealing with a base of common law.
Common law. Yeah. And the whole world, it means like some people really like that Star Trek belief, one world government order, intergalactical, planetary, the code is the same universally, but I actually enjoy going to different cultures and different countries and not seeing McDonald's on every street corner. I like diversity. I really enjoy it. I don't want a homogenous world. I really enjoy seeing different cultures and what worked for them for the last 10,000 years and what doesn't work for them, and try to see if we could grab something from them. But if they're just going to be one corporate universal code world, it's going to be almost like like robotic.
We're just digressing a little bit, but you're suggesting that we are heading towards a sort of unified judicial system for the world?
It will, until, like I said, unless. Thank God for the internet, because I'm able to come here, and Bali wouldn't have known. And I just woke up so many people here in the UK. It's unbelievable. So we actually physically went to Queen's Bench, which was a lot of fun. Bali likes doing the tourist thing, so we actually got to Queen's Bench late. So they said it's closed. The court's closed at 4:30. I said, oh, really? You believe it's closed at 4:30? I said to the security guard. He said, yes. I said, no. If the Queen was here, does the Queen not have free access to Queen's Bench? He said, yes. So is it not true that the Queen and the people also have access to Queen's Bench? Yes. So if it's free for her, it's free for me as well, right? And he's like, I never heard of such a thing. I said, where's your off-duty judge after hours? He says, I never heard of such a thing. I said, you better call up security, the head security guy. And then he tried to give me razzle-dazzle, said, come back at 10 o'clock. I said, oh, really? Where is your duty judge? Like we have them in the United States, where two of my friends are judges, and they ask me to be a hearing officer at times. So I said, where's your duty judge? So like I said, they don't make it easy for you folks to know the rules. The rules are very simple. But yes, we got in after hours. Yes, we filed our case probably 6, 7 o'clock at night. And the security guard, when we left, he says, that's unheard of. I've never seen any. We actually went to London to the Court of Justice, whatever they call them, justice courts. And we actually filed a claim after 4:30. So people like you folks have to understand, the courts are open 24/7, 365. And it was funny, I actually took a picture of it where it said, if any person wishes to access Queen's Bench after hours, call the duty judge and the courtrooms will be open. So, you know, instead of me explaining a long thing, what I did...
Simply by knowing what the real rules for the Queen's Bench were, you were able to get them to take paperwork. Otherwise, we use the expression fob off. You get the fob off, we close at 4:30.
That's my building.
Yeah.
That's the public's building. Is this not a public building?
Right.
Am I not the public? Is this Queen's Bench? Is not... Open the door. I'm coming in.
Yeah.
You know, the security guards are like, this is unbelievable. You can't come in. Who do you think you are? Yeah. Team America, you know, we're coming in. You know, we're going to open up this gate. You know, I'm telling you, we're going to tell you the rules. So they were like, yes, there is a duty judge. And yes, the duty judge said, fine. You know, just write down why you couldn't come here at 4:30. Explain a little reason why you were late, and I'll make sure the paperwork goes through and I'll send you a copy tomorrow. I said, lovely. And Polly was like, I would have never done that without somebody like you. I said, yeah, because in America, we really don't take no for an answer very well. You know, we usually... this country's very orderly. You guys are beyond orderly, you know. And America, yeah, it's a free-for-all compared to what you guys got. You guys are very, you know, it's sweet. I mean, it's lovely, but boy.
We queue, basically.
We
stand in line.
Yeah,
we stand in line. I think that's the right expression.